the stage, he's walking in to a dungeon, a place where there are stone walls all around him without any escape. Simply through suggestions, simple statements which says, all right, I'm walking with you, we're taking one step and one step more and one step more, and now we are right into the dungeon. And all you see around you are round stone walls. And there, once you've entered, the door closes and then vanishes, which means the door is also replaced by a wall, and all you have is stone. At that point in time, Jamie had gone into a state of hypnosis, and he could really see that stone wall around him. While in fact he was center stage, the audience could see him, but he could not see anything else but a wall of sheer hard stone. He does all he can to try and escape from the wall. He hits, he kicks, he bruises his arm, and finally he calls out for help. He screams, and eventually the hypnotist takes him back out of that hypnotic stage and brings him out of the state. Now that is the recall that he has, and this recall and that association with Maria's dialogue leads him to think about what is hypnosis all about. When we think of it in this context, what do we think is hypnosis? Is it just hypnosis as how we use it in therapy?
That was the thought.
Thoughts?
What they were thinking about. He diverted that what he was thinking, he diverted the wall.
Okay, so diversion of thought. Okay.
So that's why he is taking everything the wall.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He is reading the wall.
Yeah.
He is giving it.
Yes.
So there's another way.
Okay, diversion of thought. Can we say deliberate diversion?
Yeah.
Okay. That's one way of it. What else? Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Would you say it's complete switch off of the conscious?
Yeah, switch off definitely does not off.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, positive or negative, either way. Oh, wonderful. Would you like to share? Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay.
He cured it from negative to positive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Sheer suggestion. Wonderful. Okay. Yes, that's one very common use of hypnosis wherever medical cure, in terms of conventional medical cure, when it's not possible, and that's usually because the disease is psychosomatic, it's caused because of thought and not because of a physiological reason. In that case, yes, that's one reason. Oh yes. So in fact now it's all the more prevalent when you talk of hypnotic cure, surgery, sheer regular cure, mental ailments being cured through hypnosis, all of that is possible. So, yeah, conditioning of the mind. And how do we do it? Just by constantly, okay, bombarding with a certain thought. Yes.
That condition of mind is negative.
Mm-hmm.
You go to hypnotic.
Mm-hmm.
The hypnotic then helps you to decondition the mind.
Right, that's a good way of putting it.
When you come out of it, you have to come out of it. By deconditioning. So you have gone negative by conditioning your mind.
Right.
I'm a failure, I'm a failure.
Mm-hmm.
When he helps you out, I am a successful person.
Okay.
When you put you out of that.
Okay. So moving from conditioning into deconditioning. That's another aspect of it. Yes. Let's try and explore now, with the background of these stories and with our own experiences, how is it that we can use hypnosis on a day-to-day basis? Obviously, we do not always need a certified hypnotist or a healer all the time, because there are a lot of things that we can simply take charge of ourselves, because ultimately what happens here is controlled by us. Right? So no matter how much a hypnotist can try, it's really up to us as to whether we take that suggestion or not. So when we talk of deliberate thoughts being, deliberate diversion of thoughts or conditioning into deconditioning, yes, that is what really hypnosis is all about. If we have to talk of the concept in itself, yes, a lot of the social perception of hypnosis is very often negative, in the sense of we see movies where the pendulum is swung and somebody's misled through hypnosis. Well, that's just one of the utilities of it. But yes, hypnosis in a simple sense is simply a deep state of meditation, and that's about it. Right? There is no negative energy to it, or there is no malintention as far as the concept of hypnosis is concerned. It's just deep state of meditation. So if you have to put it across scientifically, what we're talking about is bringing down the brainwave level. The way we do it with meditation, that's how we do it even in hypnosis. We usually operate at a beta level when we are awake and when we are walking, talking, working. We operate at a beta level, which is a certain level of brainwave activity. What we are talking about is bringing it down from beta to at least alpha, and yes, if possible, further down to delta or theta level. So that's what hypnosis is all about. To a great extent, yes, it's possible to really shut off the conscious mind altogether and move only into the subconscious. But at the same time, it's not always necessary to shut off the conscious. You can be aware of the conscious and yet tap into the subconscious. Okay? In fact, if we manage to do that, that completely takes the fear of hypnosis, because there is no need for us to be unconscious or unaware of what is being done to us. We can be aware and be clear of what's happening to us. In fact, if you look at how hypnosis is used in regression therapy, very often the therapist does not try to shut off the conscious mind. The conscious mind is very much awake when the subconscious is also being activated. Which is why very often when we read stories or when we read records of hypnotherapy used for regression, sometimes you see that the patient tends to also manipulate whatever comes up in regression. Like, for example, if we read some of Dr. Brian Weiss's books, where he records a lot. Brian Weiss is a very famous hypnotherapist, and he's a psychiatrist who practices hypnotherapy for regression. And in some of his records, he has patients who've regressed into lifetimes, or they've regressed into their own childhood spaces, where they've recalled instances of things that they may not want to socially convey. For example, one particular patient of his regressed into a lifetime where she was a prostitute. And when she was undergoing therapy, even while she was under hypnosis, she felt, the conscious mind was active, she felt embarrassed to say that she was a prostitute. And in the record, when they played out the therapeutic record, she did not mention the term. She found her way around it and did not describe it. It's only after eventually when she got comfortable with the doctor, she said that during this lifetime, this is what I touched upon. I didn't say it at that point in time under hypnosis because I was uncomfortable saying it. So yes, the conscious mind can be very active, and that's something that we can really tap into when we're talking of using hypnosis in everyday life. When do you think hypnosis begins in our lives in general? All of us are hypnotized to some extent. Not to some extent, pretty much all the time.
The moment you allow yourself to go into that state.
The moment you allow yourself, yes, that readiness has to be there, either consciously or unconsciously.
By birth.
By birth, and how?
And we observe the people.
Okay. Okay. Okay, you observe, you take in whatever you can as a baby, and then you emulate. Okay. In the womb itself, okay. And how? Mm-hmm. Yes. But well, we have, if you look at our genetic memory, we have memories right from the in vitro stage, right from when we are in the